Hey everybody, welcome back to World History. We're going to do section 2 today. So our learning objectives are pretty much the same as last time. So go and get your notes out and let's get started. So primarily we're going to look at the French revolutions 2 and 3 today. So in 1830s and 1848, Europeans are going to see street protests explode. If you remember a couple chapters ago, when Napoleon was defeated, the Congress of Vienna restored Louis XVIII to the French throne. There was a constitution and a two-house legislature that allowed limited freedom of speech, but the king primarily retained power. So, a lot of those same issues that we identified when we started the French Revolution are going to be in play here again. We're going to see a king abusing his power. So eventually, citizens are going to lead the July Revolution with Charles X as their leader. He was a believer in absolutism, and in July 1830, he suspended the legislation, so like he was the one in charge. He also suspended the right to vote, restricted the press, and people were not happy about this. So liberals and radicals, again, radicals being those that supported extreme change, took over Paris, and Charles X fled to England. At this point, the citizen king then takes over France. This is a gentleman by the name of Louis Philippe. He becomes known as the citizen king. He's actually Charles X's cousin. He owed his throne to the people and associated with the liberal bourgeoisie. And the upper bourgeoisie are also going to prosper. This also extended suffrage to the French wealthy, favored middle class at the expense of the workers. So it got better for some, but not many. In reality, it didn't really change much for the everyday person. So, this revolution in 1830 inspires outbreaks in Europe. Most will be suppressed by the military, but some will be successful. The countries of Netherlands and Holland are actually going to be merged together by the Congress of Vienna. They wanted a strong barrier to prevent France from invading Prussia again. But here's the thing: they don't speak the same language. They practice different religions. They're primarily Catholic and Protestant. The same thing is true with Belgium. And one is primarily based on manufacturing, the other is based on trade. So in 1830, there's going to be a revolution in France with Britain and France supporting Belgian independence. So in 1831, Belgium becomes independent with a liberal constitution. That's huge because this really is the first time the Congress of Vienna's been heavily opposed, and the revolutionaries got what they wanted. So we'll also see rebellions in Poland in 1830. They failed to gain their independence from Russia. They just simply wanted their land restored, and instead Poland went to Russia entirely. After failed revolutions, many Polish actually going to flee to Western Europe and the United States to get away from all of this. Poland is one of those countries where we talk about it being constantly invaded, taken over, gains its freedom, invaded and taken over again. Like legitimately, we'll talk about how they get their land back after World War One, but then lose it during World War Two. Like we'll be talking about that in the next few weeks. So, like I mentioned, the French are going to revolt again in 1848. For those of you that like musical theater, this is the revolution that I believe Les Miserables is based off of. But there's a lot of discontent in France in the 1840s. Utopian socialists wanted to end private ownership of property, so again, socialism. Liberals are then going to denounce Louis Philippe's government as corrupt and want more suffrage or the right to vote. On top of that, a recession hits France. This is a period of reduced economic activity, and the government gets blamed for this. Turmoil then spreads during the February days, and protests erupt. Louis Philippe steps down from power, so he abdicates and is gone. The liberals take control and proclaim a second republic in France. So eventually, we get to June. The working class will then lose out. The upper and middle classes controlled this new government and then shut down the workshops, so people can't work and make money. The workers then protest violently, but the government crushes that protest. And these June days left people pretty bitter. The middle class feared and mistrusted socialists while hated by the working class, so nobody's getting along, and that leads to no cohesion. So somebody could just simply swoop in and take power. Eventually, they agreed that a new Napoleon would come to power. In 1848, the National Assembly created the Constitution for the Second Republic. That meant that there was a president and one House legislature, and all adult men could vote. So in 1848, Louis Napoleon, Napoleon's nephew, becomes the new leader of France. The working class supported him because, well, He's Napoleon. Conservatives supported him due to his past connection because he's related to Napoleon. And in 1852, he becomes emperor, becoming Napoleon III. And with this, the Second Revolution is now over in France. We'll also see economic growth during this time, and France start to make some meaningful changes. After this revolution, there's going to be other revolts in Europe. Especially in the Austrian Empire, protests are going to lead Metternich, who we talked about last time, to resign. And in Hungary, Czechoslovakia, and Italy, nationalists are going to demand independent governments from Austria. Hungary is going to be led by Louis Kossuth, and they're going to want constitutional governments. It's important to understand the Austrian troops will squash all of those rebellions, and that revolts in Europe created reforms, but most were short-lived. They weren't long-lasting reforms. Most reforms from these revolutions will last maybe 10, 20 years max. In most cases, they're very short-lived. All right, that's it for notes for today. You're once again going to go take your section quiz, and then you're going to go work on your review guide. I'll see y'all next time. Bye, everybody.